Tara, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I think the first question I want to ask is, where are you right now? And I think the next subsequent question would be, where do you wish you were right now?
Hi, Angie. Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for having me. I am in Los Angeles, and like I have for the past 12 years of my life, since the last time I was there, I wish that I was in Tehran.
Mm. So right now, there is, I would say, the largest woman-led women's rights movement happening across the world. And we had a Ukrainian Canadian artist when the war was starting there, and we asked him the same question I would ask you, that if you were there, would you be on the streets right now?
I don't know. That's a really hard question. I don't know.
And so what makes you wish that you were there, Tara? If it's because when you said that, my heart leapt a little bit, because I look at you and I think it's a good chance that you would be in a great deal of danger if you were there. So what makes your heart want to be in Tehran right now?
The fact that it's my country, it's my soil. It's the soil from which I came. It's where my ancestors are from. It's the when I smell certain things that are Tehran, it's like my body comes alive, you know? I left when I was 6, and I left once when I was 2, and then came back and left when I was 6. So I've actually spent maybe a total of 4 years of my life in Iran. But I went back every summer until 2010, and I don't know. It's really hard to explain it, and I've tried before, but there's this connection to where you're from that's inexplicable. It's just everybody speaks your language. Everybody's like your mom and your dad and your uncle and everything. You know, it's the people, it's the culture, it's the food, it's the smells, it's the tastes, it's the energy, the vibrations of Tehran that I've been yearning for 12 years. So to not be there now, where they're having this huge movement, is it's hard.
Now, I just want to say, like, obviously, you know, you're an artist, you're brilliant. I mean, we're not political analysts here, but there is a sense that from my family, from the people whom I speak to in Iran, from expatriates, that this time feels different. Like, you know, there was the green movement, of course, that unfortunately did not lead to what I think we were looking for. But why is it that you think, either inside yourself or what you're hearing, that this time something is different?
Well, first of all, earlier you said that this is about women's rights. And I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to say it's about women's rights, but really it's about human rights.
Of course.
And what's going on that I think is different this time, again, I'm not a political analyst. I'm not anybody. I'm literally just an actor in LA.
But artists understand the room. They feel the room. They understand things that sometimes, like, data doesn't tell you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's why our perspective is valuable. So go ahead.
You're right. Absolutely. I think this time it's different because, first of all, Gen Z is at the forefront. Gen Z, who grew up with all of the information in the world in the palm of their hands. So they know that there's better out there for them. They know that if they know better than we do. They know better than we did at their age. They have way more information. I think Gen Z is a huge part of this. I think also it's a movement without a leader. And that means they have no one to tear down. The movement is the anger and the frustration of the people that the regime can't take down. They're not going to kill, they could kill a leader, but they're not going to kill the anger and frustration of the people. So that's why I think the energy feels different, because it's like, how are they going to kill that?
It doesn't, that's such a fascinating point that you're making, that what I utterly ignorant to the extent that I live here and that I'm a white person and I don't have connections with Iran besides my dear friends who are Iranian. when I'm looking at this online, when I'm seeing these incredible, I mean, first of all, just like as someone who fucking loves it when people stand up to bullies, like these girls and women are the most punk fucking people I have ever seen in my life. They are so hardcore and so fucking cool. I'm going to cry just talking about it. Like, as a person who loves rock and roll and rebellion, to see these girls do this shit is just thrilling. So it feels different in that way to me, but I can also see that that really is the salient thing, is that it is a 40 million headed creature. There's not someone that they can say, this person's stirring up trouble, this woman is the problem. They created the problem, right? I mean, they made this problem by murdering this poor young woman for doing
and
nothing
by
so much as wearing a hijab
years, I mean, it's not just
Right.
murdering one person, it's 43 years
Of course.
of oppression and of
course.
murdering people and unjust human rights violations for 43 years. I mean, I could sit here and name like hundreds of things.
We don't have time. We
Yeah.
don't have the time to like, but you talked about Gen Z and you talked about the youth of this. And we were having a conversation before we started to record that, Torque and I, we lament social media because I think social media is destructive. However, I really do think that social media, access to the internet, their savviness, their ability to like use VPNs, put VPNs on their khale or their amme or their amus, like computers. This is a technologically savvy group of folk. And I think, can you talk about how you think that has really energized and been a big part of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I even me, I've been skeptical of how important social media can be in a movement like this, but I've seen actual change happen from us amplifying the voices in Iran from people outside of Iran. Because I don't know if you guys have mentioned this, but there's no internet access in Iran right now. So what they do, and they do this every time there's an uprising, is the Islamic Republic cuts off internet access to people.
How are these videos getting out of the country then?
Geniuses, these kids that figure out the VPNs that last for an hour, and they upload the videos, and they're so smart, they're so savvy, and they have internet for a few hours a day, because think about how much of their economy runs on the internet. Right. So they can't cut it off all the time, but they're just so smart and on top of it. But sorry, to your point, Ali June, they, it's been vital. This us outside of Iran, the diaspora, just taking these videos and sharing them widely, talking about it, talking about specific things, and making sure people hear about it and spread it has been so influential in making even the tiniest little changes that could get us somewhere.
So I want to talk about that because I was a little bit skeptical of like, what's the point? I get it. Like, I'm like, I have sisters, I have you, I want that regime gone. Like, I get it. But I have to be honest, Tara called me out. She messaged me on Instagram, and she's like, as she always puts Ali June, and like, and basically in Farsi, it's like June means like my dear, my soul. Like, she's like, Ali June, nothing about Iran. And I was like, you know what? She's right. And I had to like spark the thought of like, hey, even though I'm not there, even though I wish I could be there, even though I wish I could be joining that situation, I have to bring awareness to this. And I want you to talk about why it's important for me, an Iranian born who lives in Canada right now, Torque, a white dude in Vancouver. Why is it important for all of us who aren't there? What is that difference that it actually makes for us to be addressing this?
The world of a difference. Torque, if you post about Iran and one person who thought Iran was the same as Iraq, or one person that pronounces Iran as Iran, learns something about this country and the human rights violations that have been happening there for 43 years, that makes the world of a difference. That's all we need. People keep asking me, where can I donate? What can I do? I have, right now, you said, Torque, that these girls are so badass, they're so punk, They're so cool. If I showed you the pictures I have seen of these little girls' dead bodies, they're dead bodies. I've seen the pictures. They're circulating everywhere on the internet. The atrocities that this government is doing to these girls, to these men and women, to these people that are literally using their basic human right to protest, it's so beyond fathomable for the Western world that it's almost like they ignore it. And I just want to put it in their faces. This is happening right now, 2022. And your brother and your cool Iranian friends that show you Persian food, that have the cool music, you know, it's their families.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what you're saying right now is resonating with something that I heard yesterday. I wish I could remember the name of the woman who was speaking, but she was an Iranian activist who's been an activist for a long time against the hijab and the niqab, which she called the burqa.
We don't have that in Iran. That's not mandatory in Iran. We don't have.
I know that she was. I
think she was equating them the same. I think I know who you're speaking about.
Exactly.
She views it as the same. The hijab, niqab, burqa, it's all the same to her.
Well, that's what that was what I was sort of going to ask about. Was this? She was talking a lot about Islam, about Sharia law, and she was. I think what I could gather was that this woman had faced criticism within the community, and charges that she was Islamophobic because she did equate the hijab with the niqab, and she did say that any choice that women have taken away from them is equal in its crime. How does Islam fit into what's happening with these young women right now? This
has nothing to do with Islam.
So you reject you reject that point of view to some degree.
I love her, and say
her name for me. I'm so sorry.
It's Masih Alinejad. I think that's who you're talking about.
Yeah, she was on Bill Maher last week. Yeah,
and if you actually listen to what she says, that's not what she's saying. Yes, it is about a group of dictators taking Sharia law, which is an ancient Islam. It's just as if it's like suddenly the U.S. becoming Catholic, and we all have to go to mass, and we all have to do these certain, you know what I mean? Like it has nothing to do with Catholicism. It's about the abuse of Catholicism. This has nothing to do with Islam. My father is Muslim. My father is practicing. He prays. My father, even though he is the most religious person I know, never in my life has he even mentioned hijab to me. That's my choice. It has nothing to do with Islam. It has to do with dictatorship, abusing a spiritual thing to oppress people because they can, because they're playing on people's beliefs.
Are you concerned that the regime will use that kind of conversation against the girls on a public relations level, that they'll try to convince the West that this is an anti-Islamic movement?
But don't you find, Tara, that it's not working? Their shtick, like in the business we call it shtick. Yes. Like, this is about, like, Khamenei, the supreme leader, which is just, I can't even believe that exists. But his thing was that, this is Israel, this is America, this is like, and I feel like those excuses are no longer
That's why people, these little girls that you're killing, literally actual little girls, minors that you're killing, you're bashing their skulls. That's what they're not walking around saying nuclear deal, America, Israel. They're walking around stomping on your face and burning your picture. Huh?
Yeah.
Israel?
Yeah.
Huh? They're not saying anything about Islam. You don't hear those people on the streets bashing Islam. A lot of them are Muslim.
Yeah, there's a lot of women who wear hijab who are for this, because they're ultimately saying that it's like, no one's actually saying let's eradicate the hijab. If somebody wants to wear hijab, at the end of the day,
it's your choice.
Iran is a majority Shia Muslim country, but I think it's just a matter of how do you understand, interpret, and experience that spiritual
Well, in
experience,
Iran,
right?
Iran has a long history of being a democracy, right? And a place where people could
Never
could
a
live the way-
democracy. Never a democracy.
Not a democracy, but a place where
Torque's getting the Persian sandwich right now.
I
This
guess
is
a
what we did.
Western,
think
a
so.
westernized, I guess a westernized version of a Muslim country. Was it
So
not in the 50s, 60s,
no.
70s?
It was
No?
so there was so I'm
Sorry
again,
for
not
my
a
ignorance,
historian.
but
That's
this
No,
is
it's
okay.
why-
good. No. We believe that we have to, like, as to your point, Tara, was like every time we can have these moments and let people know what this country is, what the history is. So please go ahead, Tara.
Yeah, so in the 40s, 50s, 60s, during there were the Pahlavi dynasty, which was a monarchy. There was progression forward. Absolutely, there was no hijab. Actually, hijab was banned for a while, which was also a problem because people wanted to wear hijab because it is, there are Muslims. So yes, it was a forward, progressive place, Iran. And then when the regime came in 1979, what people were actually protesting when the 1979 revolution happened was that they wanted democracy. And if you're actually interested in how all of this happened,
Ironic.
I really recommend a documentary called Coup 53, and you can find it online. And
We'll put that in our notes for that Crow sends out. Make sure people have a link to it.
yes, if
Coup
you really want to
53.
know what happened in Iran, this documentary is an unbiased, very well done, very well researched documentary that'll tell you the whole history. I'm not a historian. I just know what I know. But no, that's the problem with Iran is there's never been a democracy. They were promised a democracy with this regime, but they were lied to.
So through your eyes, do you think this is a democratic movement? Where is this centered in? Like, where
Human
does
rights.
So, but what do you think is there a goal so far? Like, is there a defined end point to this, to overthrow the regime, can you get a sense of where the kids are taking this? Like what their point of winning is? How do they win this against such a brutal regime?
I think it's so bad, Tor. Like, I think it's so bad that the only thing they can think of is regime change. They need these people
To
out.
go.
We don't know who's going to replace them. We don't know what's going to happen. We know we don't know. We don't know. The truth
But you can't
is,
let men who murder children stay in charge of the country. That's just
for 43 years.
an impossible situation.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, we were talking about this before we started to record. There's a lot of like pushback. I remember my brother-in-law sent me an article and we were talking about the New York Times. And the New York Times was trying to make an argument that this is ultimately like about economics. And, it's so funny because they would always say the Russian Revolution was about the price of bread and the American Revolution was actually about King George, as they say in Hamilton, King George turns around, runs a spending spree, But actually, at the core, it's not. It's not. And we were saying that on the streets right now, it's Zan Zindagi Azadi, which is women, life, freedom. So can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, again, I'm definitely not a politics person, but this has nothing to do with sanctions or a nuclear deal. This is 43 years of oppression and human rights violations. This is for all of the gay, lesbian, trans, LGBTQ plus community that are banned and being murdered and hung for being gay. This is for the
or forced to transition.
Well, no,
Can
they're not forced to transition, but it's legal to transition. So there's all these psychological things that come to that where people don't realize. People think they have to have sex changes because they're gay.
Exactly,
and
because they're gay. Exactly. So in a way,
it's sick. It's sick. Women can't sing. Women don't have even close to the same rights as men. It's like a sick, messed up, like Taliban level of human rights violations. And it's been overlooked for 43 years. So I don't know, like, what that means that this has to do with the economy. Like, yes, and the economy is messed up too. Guess what?
Sure,
the economy is messed up too. Guess what? People don't have access to medicine. They don't have access to so many things because of heavy sanctions on them. Absolutely. But this has nothing to do with that. Or it does in a very small way.
Are you in touch with your family a lot right now, Tara, in Iran?
I am not. I prefer not to. I know that they're okay, but I would rather just stay away from them so that what I'm doing doesn't affect them in any way.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And that's a concern, right? Is that I'm assuming that anybody, I mean, there's such a huge Iranian community in Vancouver as well now. There's tons of Iranians. I'm assuming those people, when they're calling home, they're being monitored, right? That's standard?
I think the assumption is always there, and I wouldn't put it past anyone to monitor Iranians. So yes, but
which accentuates the need for this social media dissemination, I guess, even more, right? Because even if you have a direct link with Iran right now, you may not be able to access that link because you're putting that link in danger if you access them. So you really do have to kind of build an online community outside of the people you actually physically know. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about anything you know about what Iranian artists are doing right now in the midst of all of this, whether they're participating in these protests, and what you as an artist, like when this kind of thing, when politics, well, not politics, when life and death enters the life of an artist, when the events of the world supersede your life as an artist, where do you put it as an artist, as an actor? Do you feel like there's anything you can do with how much emotion and how much pain and anger and sadness that you're feeling right now? I know that's a heavy question, but we like to go there on this show because it's about art.
Yeah, of course. I was talking about this with my mom yesterday, and my mom said that artists are the sound of the hearts of people. And in Persian, that's very poetic. In English, it kind of sounds weird, but it's true. It's like we are the heartbeat of the now. We express the heartbeat of now, of what people are feeling now. And my entire career, since I wrote a one-woman show when I was 21.
Nominated for a Governor General's Award, by the way. Just I gotta throw that in there.
Thank you very much, Adam. Only Canadians know what that is, so thank you.
I know, yeah, but I think they're the only people who listen to this show. Or there's a few.
Okay,
no, we got like a round. Yeah.
Go on. But I've dedicated truly my entire career to making Iranian culture known to non-Iranians and to making Iranian people in the Iranian diaspora helping them find a place where we all connect and we can have a joint identity. Because as a multi-hyphenate, there's so many different things that happen when you're finding your identity. You either become like too Canadian. You like I went into, when I was a teenager, I did not want to be Iranian at all. I said that I was Italian. I hated being Iranian. And then, or I went way more into being Iranian and became super Iranian and then rejected being Canadian. But the truth is I'm both. And now I live in LA and there's parts of that in me too. So it's like about reconciling. I dedicated my whole career to reconciling these multi-hyphenate identities. That's really important to me. But the number one hyphenate in my identity is my Iranian identity. I really believe in generational trauma, and the trauma that's in my body is the trauma of being Iranian. So my loyalties, my concern, my everything as an artist, but also just like as a human being, are with that country, are with those people. And if it means I when this news broke, I was on vacation with my husband in Spain, and then we went to Portugal. And if I tell you, I could not tell you one thing that we saw there. I was just like this the entire time. And guess what? My husband is Iranian American, and he understood. He would just be like, he'd just take my phone for a second and be like, "Hey, can I take a picture of you in front of this monument?" Like, it was, there is nothing more important than what's happening right now. And
my brother-in-law said something really fascinating to me, and it made me cry. And because again, we're all products of a revolution. We're all out of that country because a revolution happened in 1979. And he said to me, he's like, "Ali, me and your sister, somehow, some way, we're going to be involved in this next revolution. I don't know what it is. I don't know how, but from here, some way, somehow, we're going to be involved in this." And I think that's that connection that you're talking about, where you're like, I'm not there, but I'm there, and I'm going to touch it. Yeah.
This is something important that I'd love you both to talk about. Is one thing I do know about Iran is that art is deeply embedded in what it means to be a Persian. And my friends here in Vancouver who are Iranian, they are a pharmacist and a professor of pharmacology. But both of them wanted to be artists. One wanted to be a poet, and one wanted to be a musician. And the government kind of made them go to pharmacology school, and they became pharmacists. But they talk constantly about poetry, about music, about its meaning within the story of being Persian. And in these protests, time and time again, another thing that is blowing my mind is how often art is being used. Dance, particularly, is being used by these young women to express this protest and this sense of yearning for freedom. Can you talk a bit about what that is? Why are those young women dancing? What does that mean to them?
They're not allowed to dance. Music, Western music is banned in Iran. They're not allowed to sing. They're not allowed to dance publicly. So when they're burning the mandatory hijab, they're also, dancing around a fire in an act of protest. Poetry, sorry, Adrian, if you had something to say, but poetry
no, go ahead.
Is a huge part of our culture and something that we've held on to for dear life in the past 43 years. To be like, hey, the Islamic Republic is not Iran. The Islamic Republic is the Islamic Republic. This is Iran. Hafez, Sadi, Rumi, Ferdowsi, these great poets. This is our culture. This music is our culture. These paintings are our culture. These plays are our culture.
Your T-shirt there, I love Gugush.
Gugush for president.
Indeed.
So, this music, I have no reason as someone who grew up in Canada to love Gugush and know every single word of every single Gugush song off by heart. Sorry, I forgot English for a second. But I do, because it connects me to my culture. She is my culture. So it's very, very important, our culture to us. And like you said, I'm just going to correct you, Torque, if that's okay. It's not the government.
Please do. I'm speaking from a place of ignorance. As
you are the lavash. You are the lavash in our sandwich. It's fine.
Yeah.
He's actually the middle. We're the lavash, Ali. He's like the
we're the lavash. Yeah.
You're like the mortadella. It's also cultural for Iranians to make their kids be pharmacists. It's more cultural than it is anything. My dad wanted me to be an eye surgeon, and my mom really wanted me to be a journalist. I don't know why a journalist. So random. But
I only said that because Nancy, my friend, told me the story of, like, basically her real name is Nazim. She told me that she literally went to university and they were like, yeah, no, you can't take English. You're going to go take pharmacy classes. Like, that was her experience.
It's our culture is like, that's what they do. They push you.
Torque, when you become a doctor, you become Agha Doktor, which is like Mr. Doctor.
Yeah,
Mr. Engineer. We put title on title. We're like, wow. Oh my
Or
God. Can you
pharmacist
believe it?
is like very
Pharmacist.
prestigious in
Oh
our
my
culture.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
very
Right.
prestigious.
they push you in certain directions, absolutely. But art and you know what? My cousins, it's so sweet. They're such talented musicians. I can't even tell you. But they're all engineers, and they're always like, "You black sheep of the family, you did the thing we all wanted to do." You know, and I'm like, "But
Right.
you have financial security." Anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Well, that's certainly that whole thing is certainly an experience for artists that goes beyond any cultural boundaries. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
We
true.
all find ourselves being the people at the dinner table where people are like, "So what do you actually do though for a living? What the fuck do you actually do?"
I want to talk about, and Tara, I want your thoughts on this. I want to talk about the cultural significance of the Mehmuni. A Mehmuni Torque is a family party. And it's what's amazing about it is that growing up every single week, if you're in Iran, it would be your family. But if you find your family, you find the other families that have immigrated to Canada. And every week you would get together, you would dress up. You know, the shoes are so shiny, the perfume is so vibrant, and that's just the men. And you would, you would experience a lot of dancing. You would experience a lot of food. And then when that party was over towards the end and when you were sipping your tea, you would hear an uncle or an aunt recite Hafez and Rumi. And when I see these protests, and in Iran right now, I will tell you, no matter what the government denies them, in their homes, a Persian house party, like, Tara, if you want an idea to pitch to Netflix, it should be called Persian House Party. And you literally go and you show extravagant like house parties. But what I see is I go, listen, these people are bringing their private finally into public. What they're doing is what they do in their homes. And I think that's also a part of it. It's like, fuck you. This is my identity. Dance, poetry, love, openness, expression. That's who we are. And that a regime has denied them that. I think, and also when they open up their phones and they see the rest of the world moving in a direction, I think if it hit them that they say, you know what? That's enough. That's enough. It's time to be me. So as much as I view it as like a deliberate thing, because of course you are not allowed to dance there publicly, I also go, these people are being their true selves, that they are. But yeah, I mean, Torque, one day I would love to invite you to a Persian Mehmuni. I think it would,
I would love to
you've
come.
never experienced anything like it.
Why is this stuff so rooted in?
Sorry, Tara, go ahead. Sorry, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Tara was
Go
going
ahead,
to say
Tara.
something. Go ahead.
No, I
Yeah.
was just going to say, I have a group of friends here. When you were saying that, it really warmed my heart because I finally have a group of friends that are all Iranian. And I never really had Iranian friends in Toronto, and in LA I do, and they're all artists and they're all Iranian. And once every couple of weeks, we all get together and we have a pizza party, and one person always ends up singing, and then we all sing, and then
And there's always dancing.
There's some dancing, but mostly we just hang out, and it's the best thing that's nourished my soul more than anything else ever. So, yeah.
Where does this go, do you think, you guys? Where does this go? What's going to happen in the next 2 months?
With all due
I'll be quick and say,
Yes,
and I'll let
you
you
say.
I'll let you. I don't know where this is going to go. But I do really feel this is the beginning of something vastly different. I don't think it ends in the way that other movements like this ended. I actually think there is a huge momentum, and what I like, I don't, obviously it's so interesting. I want to be like what I like about this, but you always keep the thought of the people that they're killing in your head. But there is something vastly organic about this, and I would always have debates with my parents about like what happens to Iran and how regime change happens. And they would always mention this person will become leader, and then this expatriate, and this Pahlavi, and I'd always be like, whatever happens, it actually has to happen from them within themselves. The fire has to burn from inside. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I see that, and that to me gives me an immense amount of hope. And Tara, what do you think?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I was going to respectfully say that neither Ali Norai or could tell you. You know, it's a very internal thing, and our role as Iranians outside of Iran is just to give them what they want and amplify what they want, and whatever is coming out of Iran, we just have to be gung ho for it. It's what they want. It's their land. It's their country. It's their, you know, it's what they want. It's whatever they want. Yeah.
And it's got to ultimately become not just a movement of women, right? It's got to become a movement of men as well.
It is a movement of
men.
No. It is. It is a movement of men. It's everyone. If the men hadn't stood alongside the women, we wouldn't be here now. You know, it's both. Uh-huh. It's led by women. It was led by the death of mahsaamini, and now so many names of young girls that they've killed after her for protesting, which are heartbreaking. And I really encourage you to visit some of our Instagram pages and look at their faces and say their names and know their names and post about them. It's really important that the world sees their faces, sees that there's just normal 16-year-old girls whose skulls were bashed in for using their human right to protest. So, you know, I really encourage that to your listeners, to you yourself, especially to people who aren't Iranian. This is an important human rights issue that we should all care about the way we cared about George Floyd.
It's all I've been really putting up on my Twitter feed. I don't talk about politics much anymore on Twitter because it's pointless, but I have been doing all I can to amplify the video that I see, because it's, to me, you know, it just expresses the absolute height of the human spirit, really. It is a capturing of people at a moment of truth in their lives and a moment of strength that is just absolutely jaw-dropping. So it's, if nothing else, it's just a way of saying to people, it's possible for you to change the world if you fucking are brave and you dance.
And something that's so identifiable to me about what's happening, about the notion of women, life, freedom, is that contrary to what I think a lot of people might think, Persian women, they run the show. You know, there's a song, you know, Dokhtari Runi Misle Gole. There's a song that comes on Turk. When that song comes on, things get lit. And it's basically like an Iranian woman is like a flower, you know, and me, just in my upbringing, my sisters, my niece, my mom, my damn right that this is that sadly it was what sparked it was that injustice to Mahsa, of course, because in our culture, it's very matriarchal. At least I've grown up that way in the experiences that I've had. It's like your khale, your amme, your mom, she run the show. And contrary to what a lot of people believe, you know, Iran has, just even Iran right now, it has a high rate of graduate studies, of graduate people who have like masters, and most of them are women. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So I just think, like, of course it's women, life, freedom, and women first. Of course.
I just want
people to be aware of that.
Absolutely. And I also want people to research the origins of women, life, freedom, which is Jen Jian Azadi, which is from the Kurdish movement. This is because Mahsa Jina Amini was Kurdish. And what Iran has, I mean, just
give us a little précis about why that's important, Tara, if you can, because I was listening to an interview about that just the other day. Tell if you can encapsulate it. How does the Kurdish freedom movement link into what's happening in Iran right now?
Absolutely. I mean, I personally, I don't know that much about it. I know as much as you know, because I've listened to the same interviews. I didn't know a lot. The truth is, if I'm really honest, I didn't know a lot of this stuff until recently. I didn't know. Right. I didn't know what what women in Kurdistan were doing, what they were fighting for, and that a lot of their independence movement is led by women. That there are all these Kurdish women, female soldiers, and Zan Zendegi Azadi, woman, life, freedom, comes from that. So this is also a Kurdish struggle, and we need to talk. There's a lot of intersectionality. That I've learned now that we need to acknowledge and we need to be aware of. This is, way bigger than we can fathom, like I said, in the West. So I really just encourage, instead of saying something myself about it and making a mistake, I'd rather just encourage people to research the,
absolutely.
Well, I just want to thank you so much, Tara, for being here. And this actually leads to the next question. Before you go, can you give, I don't know, like the rundown of what accounts we should be following, what we should be doing on social media? And then if you can give us, we like to end our show with an art pick. Yeah. Is there a piece of Iranian art that you think that our listeners should be, checking
out? Accounts to follow. Tara Grammy. Just saying. No kidding.
Yeah.
My friend Nazanin.
It's a great follow.
Thanks. My friend Nazanin Noor is doing a lot. She took over Ellen's Instagram, which was huge. 125 million people saw the protests, the Global Day of Protests, which was October 1st, through Ellen's account that Nazanin took over. I think she's on BBC today. Like, she's doing all these interviews and really spreading the word about what's happening in Iran. So I want to shout out Nazanin Noor. I want to shout out Nazanin Boniadi, who's an activist that we love, and she's an actor. And her stuff is amazing. Honestly, if you just follow the three of us, you'll see all the different accounts. There's one called from _ Iran that posts things really often. There's one called 1500 Tasvir, which posts things in Persian, but it's a good place. So there's a ton of them that we post all the time. My art pick would be, if you want to know about the Iranian Revolution, if you're a numbers guy, I would watch Coup 53. I would watch Coup 53. And then if you are more of a visuals guy, I would watch Persepolis. The film is by Marjan Satrapi, which is brilliant.
Beautiful film.
And the graphic novel is really good. And then for Canadian stuff, we have a lot of really great Canadian theater. But you could read my play, Mahmoud. It's on
Mahmoud.
Canada Press.
Amazing.
It talks a lot about the revolution and from a diaspora perspective. So I just shamelessly self-plug, but it's true. It does talk about.
Well, I'm so glad you did, because I can't wait to read the play, and I can feel your passion from thousands of miles away about this, about your country, about the art you love, and about your people, and we're so grateful. I know it's really emotional when we get people on, things are happening, and we get artists on to talk about this stuff. It is extremely generous, because I know it's not just something you see in the news for both of you. It's something that's happening in your lives and in the lives of people you love, and to a place that you love. So we really appreciate your generosity in talking to us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your generosity in amplifying Iranian voices and putting this out there to your audience. So I really appreciate it.
You bet we will.
Thank you.
We're definitely rocking some Gugush at the end of this episode.
Yeah,
for sure.
as we should.
All right.
Thanks,
Take care.
guys.